Linda Sherwood, Director of Business Operations.
Gina Bergstog, Assistant Superintendent.
Hi, Lauren DeGennaro, Director of Student Services.
Andy Corey, Superintendent.
Holly Durlow-Babcock, School Board.
Kate Stoll, School Board.
Rob Mann, School Board.
Tom Solon, School Board.
Patrick West, Principal of the Middle School. Tim Berzone, High School Principal.
Amanda Zeller, High School Assistant Principal.
Margaret Noble, Student Body Vice President.
Welcome. I think you go by Maggie. Is it okay if we call you Maggie, or do you want us to call it you Margaret?
Oh, you can call me Maggie.
Okay, great.
Still
Thank
call
you.
her late today.
Okay. Welcome. Okay, all right. So at this point, we will move on to do we have any agenda adjustments?
I don't have any.
Okay, how about nominations, resignations, and correspondence?
I have some retirements. As the board knows, it's that time of year. Contractually, staff are obligated to notify us of retirement by December 1st. So the first one, dear Superintendent Corey, I am notifying you now of my intent to retire from the co-op at the conclusion of the 23-24 school year in order to fully transition to the SAU 41 Central Office as Assistant Director of Student Services. And that is from Christine Height. And I need a motion and a vote.
So I need a motion to accept, is it retirement, you said, or resignation?
Retirement.
Retirement. Can I just see it? I need a motion to accept the retirement of Christine Height as Assistant Director of Student Services.
No, as reading specialist.
Reading specialist, sorry, thank you. Thank you, that's why I messed up.
Okay.
I need a notion, as a retirement from, I need a motion to accept Christine Height's retirement from reading services. Thank you, Krista.
Second.
I'm sorry, I was trying to text my family to not interrupt me during. I wasn't paying attention at all. So I did.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on.
Okay, all those in favor?
Discussion?
Discussion, sorry.
How does that
In
work?
favor of discussion.
Retiring and staying in the district, in the SAU?
It would be like anybody else who chooses to retire and then take a position, because it's not a full-time position.
It's a part-time position?
Okay. Any other questions, discussions, comments? All those in favor? That is 6-0. Motion passes. I'll pay attention now.
Okay. The second one is, this letter is to
Sorry,
inform SAU 41 that I intend to retire at the end of this contract year, June 30th, 2024. And that is from Kristen Werney at the middle school.
All right. So I need a motion to accept the retirement of Kristen Werney from the middle school.
So moved.
Moved by Kate, seconded by Krista. Any discussion?
Thank you for her
Yeah.
many years.
Yeah, we definitely want to thank Kristen for all of her time and work with our students. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor? 6-0, motion carries.
Dear school board members, I am writing to inform all of you that at the end of the 2024 school year, I will be retiring my position as an English teacher at Hollis Brookline High School. After 17 years of service, I am leaving to spend time with my family and begin a new pathway in my life. Over the time I have worked with the Hollis Brookline School District, I have had many opportunities to grow as an educator and an individual. I am grateful for the knowledge and experience I have gained throughout the years of service. Thank you to everyone who has been instrumental in guiding me on my educational journey, and that is from Marielana Solomani.
Solomon, yeah. Okay. I need a motion to accept the letter of intent to retire, that's what it should be, received from her, from Marie Salomon, with an effective date of, it's June 30th, 2024.
So moved.
Moved by Krista.
Thank you for 17 years.
Thank you for 17 years, yep. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Kate. Any comments? Discussion? No, we want to thank Ms. Salomon for all of her time and effort with our students. All those in favor? 6-0.
And lastly, to Andy Corey, Gina Bergstog, and Patrick West, this letter represents my official notice of retirement from my position as music educator at the Hollis Brookline Middle School at the end of the school year 23-24. After 20 years at Hollis Brookline Middle School and 33 years as a music educator in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, I am excited to start my second act in life. I will cherish the positive connections that I have made with our students, our families, and our staff. I have been blessed to be part of such a strong school community that has cared for me in so many ways. Thank you, Nancy Spencer.
Okay, I need a motion to accept the letter of intent from Nancy Spencer with an effective date of June 30th, 2024.
So moved.
Moved by Kate, seconded by Krista, again with thanks. How many years did she say?
20 with us, 33 overall.
For all of her years of dedication to our district and to education overall. Any other questions or comments?
Why are you looking at me?
No, I was just wondering. All those in favor? 6-0. So all those motions carried.
I have two pieces of correspondence. I just want to let the board know that we have applied for the safety security grants through the DOE. Kelly submitted those, and we'll be waiting to hear on the projects that she identified. Again, the focus by the DOE was on physical security items, similar to the entranceways, things of that nature. So that's what we put in. And then the second piece, not for any action tonight, but we'll need action in December. They have selected the primary date for the presidential primary to be Tuesday, February 23rd.
January 23rd.
January 23rd of 2024. That's going to create a wealth of discussion across the SAU regarding holding school or not holding school. So we will come back with a recommendation to you. Right now, sitting here today, my recommendation will probably be anticipating the turnout that might come into play, that we close for that day. But we'll have a more concrete recommendation at our December meeting. And that's it for that section.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to approving minutes. The first set of minutes that we have are from the Hollis Brookline Cooperative School Board of October 18th, 2023. There are some amendments offered. Page 9, line 13, correct the spelling of bin. Page 14, line 10, insert a comma after winter. Page 14, line 2, replace the period with a comma following spring. Page 18, line 13, replace form with from. And page 19, line 44, insert it is before an advantage. I need a motion to accept as amended.
So moved.
Moved by Krista. I need a second.
Second.
Cindy and then Krista.
Cindy, okay, well, now I don't have my glasses on, and I just heard everything, so.
Sound alike.
Yeah, I guess so. So Cindy, I was like, so Cindy made the motion, Krista seconded. Okay, are there any questions? Kate, you weren't here, so you have to abstain. All those in favor? I've got 5 yeas, any opposed, and an abstention. So it's 5-0-1. Motion carries. And then I have the non-public school board minutes from October 18th, 2023. Page 1, line 25, replace SAU 41 governing board with Hollis Brookline Cooperative School Board. I need a motion to accept as amended.
So
Moved by Krista. And I need a second.
second.
Cindy. Any comments? All those in favor? We've got 5 and abstention, 1. Okay. At this point, I'm going to open the floor for, in a moment, I'll open the floor for public input. If there is anybody from the public walking in, we will have the floor open for half an hour, from 6:09 to 6:39. If someone comes in between that half an hour period, we will welcome their input, but we may actually ask them to wait and, put them in at a convenient time for us.
Holly, question?
Yes, Tom?
Do email correspondences merit being brought up either through correspondences or public input?
We haven't done that in the past.
The only reason I'm asking is the nature of some correspondence that I've seen. I'm just wondering if the answer might be good to be in public, just to close the door on things. Just a question of opinion.
Do you mean the report we got yesterday? I think we'll talk about it during the budget conversation. I
Okay.
think so. Yeah, I think we'll cover
Okay.
it during the budget. So I think we'll, just like we would if the person came to us, it'll be part of the conversation
I understand, I just
today.
didn't want to miss an
Okay,
opportunity to.
yeah. No, I gotcha. And we'll talk about it during that
Okay,
conversation.
Thank you.
But thank you for alerting me to that. Okay, so at 6:39, we'll close the, hopefully someone on the board will remind me and let me know that it's 6:39. Okay, so so the floor is currently open for public input as of 6:09, and seeing there is none? No, okay. We're going to move on with our agenda. At this point, I'm going to appoint a process observer, and Rob, it's you this month?
Oh, it is?
Yes, it
Oh,
is.
okay.
Yeah, we've rotated back. It's
Very
but
well.
I messed up the alphabet, so Cindy was last. I'm really good at
I'm
words
happy
and
to
letters
observe.
supposedly, but not really. So.
Okay.
So,
I'm happy to observe.
not good at numbers or letters.
How about hieroglyphs? How about hieroglyphs?
I don't know. I'm just weak at everything, I guess. Okay. Moving on to principal and athletic reports. So we will open with,
Can I start with student?
I think, how would you guys like to do this? I'm going to let you guys, would we like to let Maggie go first? You want to do athletics first and then Maggie? How do you want to do this?
Why don't we do Maggie's first?
Maggie's first.
Would Maggie like to go second, so she has something to model off of after?
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there as an option.
I think probably the athletic report first would be
Yeah.
really great since it was so positive. And can you just, I know his nickname, but what is the soccer coach's name?
Girls or boys?
Boys, no, girls soccer coach.
Peter Clark?
Clark, okay. And for some reason I couldn't remember his name. Thank you.
All right, so I'll take Brian's report here. So we had a successful fall up at the high school. Our girls varsity soccer team just concluded their 19-0 perfect season,
Wow.
taking home the Division II state championship, 2-1 victory over Co-Brown in the final. So they went to a shootout in the semis over Bow in a 0-0 tie, and we took home the semifinal win to advance to the championship in dramatic form as well. We also had state runner-up, our volleyball team. We have a representative down at the end of the table here. Finished runner-up to Bedford again this year, unfortunately. But again, our volleyball team competes at the Division I level, which is one of the only sports Falls Brookline offers. So certainly the smallest school up there, petitioning up to play with the biggest and the best in the state. So hats off to our volleyball team as well. Looks like the middle school team, girls soccer team, also made it to the finals for the third year in a row, and they lost a tight game to Bow in the finals. Looks like our middle school girls soccer runner finish. HBM was also a successful end of the fall season. HBM's cross-country teams capped off their season. Boys third place, girls fifth, Tri-County League champion at the Tri-County League Championships. Boys soccer team pulled off a great upset to the semifinal game of their tournament before dropping out, and the field hockey team made their tournament once again as well. Winter season is underway at the middle school, girls and boys hoops, along with wrestling, which just began earlier this week. And in addition, at the high school, our boys soccer team, girls field hockey team both made it to the quarterfinals, and the fall cheerleading team finished fifth in the state overall. So congrats to all of our fall sports teams at the high school. Wrestling started this week, swimming started this week. It's a staggered start for the fall or for the winter sports. We'll have basketball picking up next week, and indoor track and unified sports a little bit later on in the season.
Great. Any questions on the athletic report? I just wanted to say, and the reason I asked for his name is, well, obviously I want to congratulate all of the teams and, you know, obviously the girls volleyball team and, you know, the girls middle school soccer team, everyone. But I just know that Peter Clark's been coaching with us for a really long time. He's not on staff. He's a coach, right?
Yep,
He comes
that's
in as a
correct.
coach. And that he's gotten to the semis and the playoffs and whatever, and to get the state championship with a undefeated season, I think is pretty incredible. So I just wanted to extend at least my congratulations to him. I don't want to speak for the whole board, but
Yep,
I just,
absolutely. And I was remiss in mentioning, I did hear today, Peter Clark was named the Division II Coach of the Year.
no, I think that's great for him.
Very
so.
deserving. So congratulations to he and the whole staff and his team.
Great, thank you. Okay, so that's your example, Maggie. So we'd love to hear what's going on with student council.
So right now, we are brainstorming ideas for policy changes. We haven't decided on one. We're still talking about it. We're also organizing a fundraiser focusing around like T-shirt sales for like a positive message around the school. I think they did that a couple years ago. I'm not sure the date, but the teachers still wear them. It's like the Be the Good, or those shirts. We just had a really successful Halloween assembly, which everyone really enjoyed. A lot of teachers said that we really brought the school spirit back from the past assemblies, which we were really happy with. And we're also working with, I guess, the students to try to bring back all the school spirit, and we're incorporating the skits and the dances back into the Spirit Week to really get back to the before COVID school, I guess. And that's about it.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks. Okay, so the way this works, were you here a couple months ago?
No, this is my first
Okay,
meeting.
well, welcome. So the way it works is you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. We love input, and just so you know, on our agenda this month is the program of studies, so we'll be talking a little bit about courses and class sizes, so it's always nice to have student input on those kinds of things. However, we also know that your time is limited, so we are totally understanding if you need to head out. It's totally okay. No one will judge you. Okay.
We don't
Except-
snicker if you get
No,
up and walk
no,
away.
it's totally okay.
Sneak
So,
out.
Yeah.
But after
More
the
like a
principal
glare of
reports, it's totally
envy.
cool. So you're welcome to go whenever you want. Okay. But thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing that. Does anyone have any questions on student council? Okay, thank you. All right. So moving forward, who's going first, Patrick or Jim?
Why don't you, Sure.
Oh, thank you. I will pass those along.
We had Red Ribbon Week at the end of October, which ended our Bully Awareness and Prevention Month. It was, I felt, a really strong month this year, and our Red Ribbon Week had fun activities put on by our counseling department. Our guest speaker, Cam Awesome, who is the winningest professional boxer in U.S. history, was our guest speaker that Monday morning and came with a really great message about treating yourself and others with kindness, and shared his story with our students. And I think it resonated well with our students. Overall, it was a great week. We ended the week with our Halloween assembly. We typically have them in the morning, but the staff wanted to try an afternoon assembly. And it was really well received by students and staff. We had a lot of fun. We played a few games, but the big kicker was the Halloween costume contest. Lots of staff presence, which I think was one of the most exciting parts of the day, but we also had great costumes from students as well. Washington DC update, we have 172 eighth graders signed up, which is great. We are looking still for some scholarship donations. We're putting together, working with our PTSA to put something together to show that we try to reach that 10,000 goal each year. We've raised about 1,000 so far this year, so just trying to make it so that our students can all attend. I did finalize the cash calendar fundraiser. That'll be going out to students tomorrow and sending that out to parents. So just be ready just in case, because there might be some students coming around to ask if you're interested in buying a ticket. It's a $10 ticket. You can buy as many as you want, but there's 20 days for the month of December that have different prizes for each day. So a ticket will be drawn, and that person will be called or emailed if they win that prize. 8th grade did a field trip to Bodeborg. It sounds like it was one of the best field trips that a lot of students went on. We're going to try and build this into a closer start of the school year because it was really focused around team building. And it just sounds like it was a great event. Students and staff really enjoyed that day, so thank you to the 8th grade teachers for putting on that Bodeborg trip. We had our Veterans Day Assembly last Thursday. We had about 20 people attend. It was a really great assembly. A lot of the veterans really expressed how much they appreciate that day, that assembly. A couple of them were moved by the standing ovation when they entered and exited the gym. And I was really proud of our students putting together a strong assembly. We had a number of students who did a nice reading for that assembly. So we will welcome them back in March before we go to DC. Our students finished the PSAT. Our scores are being released to students tomorrow. And we are currently looking for a long-term or interim Spanish teacher. And I included the class size report. I'm sorry it prints off a little not ideal, so I did include the link if anybody wanted to hop on and see a cleaner version. And then some upcoming dates.
So any questions on Patrick's? Thank you for the report, Patrick. Great
Of
job.
course.
Any questions on the report? We'll probably ask questions about class size separately. So are there any questions on the report or comments? Glad to see that we continue with the tradition of offering a Veterans Assembly at the middle school and that it's taken so seriously and that we do it so well. I think it's a really wonderful thing that we do. So I appreciate you making sure that happens.
Of course.
All right, and does anybody want to have any questions about the class size report, which I'm linking to right now?
So if you are on the spreadsheet on Google Sheets, there's tabs at the bottom for each department.
Ah, I did not see that earlier today.
How does this actually factor into scheduling where you don't have a lot of flexibility in structure, both in terms of number of sections, teachers, and class size?
So most of it's driven by, well, we take into consideration the requests for math, our special ed, band and chorus, world language. So when students make those requests, that restricts them in their schedule. So that's really what kind of drives those sections for students.
So you don't really have the flexibility, though, to add a section, or
Not really.
do you end up with a pretty good balance as
Um,
far as loading?
I think so. As you'll see, there was definitely a little bit more of a imbalance this year. I think in part because we have a little bit more programming available for our students with the math courses, band and chorus, our world language, and we've made some adjustments to special ed offerings. So that does kind of restrict schedules for students, and that's why you'll see some of the imbalance in certain sections.
Are any of the classes up at the high school? And do the students which ones do they go up to the high school?
They don't go up for the high school, but
They don't.
we offer geometry still, which is a high
Okay,
school level course.
okay, but there's nothing where they're actually going
Nope.
up? Okay.
Are you sharing a math teacher with the high school?
No.
Are you asking why there's 12 sections?
I'm confused
Or
by the
22.
the one teacher who's only teaching 2 sections.
That teacher also has 3 sections of IMP.
Okay. Yep, that's why I was asking. Thank you. So with the team approach, it kind of makes it so that there's not a lot of flexibility in what you can do in terms of class sizes.
That certainly restricts us more with having the teams.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions?
No, I mean, so if you have fewer kids, we have fewer kids in there. If we have more kids, we have, so it's, yeah, the team approach kind of limits.
What are the 4, I don't know what you call them?
Core classes.
No, not the core classes, the ones that used to be
Specials.
shop and, yeah.
We call them
Oh,
specials.
the specials, yeah.
What are the 4 now?
We've got tech ed, computer science, health, and art.
What are they doing in tech ed these days?
So fortunately, we do have a tech ed teacher this year. He's getting back to the machine working, woodworking. We did, for our 7th graders this year, it was reviewing some safety standards before going into working with machines. But he built cars, he did a bridge building activity to test the weight.
They're getting back to those.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
And so you, just so the public knows, we did receive our New England School Development Council numbers, right, with enrollment numbers. So are we looking at, so these are light numbers in 7th and 8th grade right now. Are we looking at a big incoming 6th grade, like incoming 7th grade?
I wouldn't say they're light. They're about 200, which
Okay.
is sort of our,
Normal?
like above is larger and then below,
Right.
like our 10th grade is about 170.
Okay.
But these are about average.
Okay.
And then you can continue.
Yeah, I think you're looking at future projections, probably still 3 or 4 years away, where we're going to be in that probably closer to, 2 to 225 class sizes, which will put a big strain on this building.
Okay. All right, good to know. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to enlighten us with, Patrick, on this, or you feel like the numbers speak for themselves?
I think the numbers speak for themselves. We're certainly looking into scheduling this spring a little earlier to see if there's ways to make classes more balanced, but because of some of the offerings we have, it does create some bottlenecking.
So your concerns when you say imbalance is that you might have a section that has a lot more kids than another section?
Yeah.
Right.
Anything in particular that creates concern for you? As far as being imbalanced and overloaded?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. All right, moving on to Tim.
All right, I'll do the board report first, and then we can talk more in depth about some of the attached reports, including the enrollment, program of studies, and the foreign travel proposal. So we had mentioned it last month, but it was very close to our board meeting on the 12th there. So we took about 35 student leaders off campus for a student leadership retreat. We had a preview of the like documentary. Those student leaders then pushed into our home-based cab blocks for the viewing with their classmates, help facilitate some of those conversations around social media in our lives. We had a guest speaker, local former NFL star, Kendall Reyes, who came leadership training, and our hope and our goal is to continue to provide these students with other leadership opportunities and trainings throughout the year. The students that took part were representatives from a variety of different clubs and groups throughout the building, ranging all of our clubs, all of our activities were offered the opportunity to send student leaders from within. So it was a really nice cross section of the building, and I thought it went really well. We had our NHS induction. We inducted 59 new members into NHS this year. Just as a reminder, in order to be eligible for NHS consideration, you need to maintain a minimum of a 3.7 GPA. Juniors and seniors are eligible. You have to have a minimum of 12 hours of community service to be considered, and 2 community recommendations that go before our committee for entrance into NHS. They are still working on, at the time of this board report, they had not decided on a chapter project for the year yet. I think they were narrowing it down to 2 or 3 options, and I don't have that information at this time, but there will be a chapter project, as there is every year, that NHS is taking part in. As Patrick mentioned, for his 8th graders, our juniors and approximately 30 sophomores took part in the fully digital PSAT. That's the National Merit Qualifying Test, the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test on the 25th of October, and test scores will come out tomorrow, so students and parents can log in to College Board to view those scores tomorrow. We did, as Maggie already mentioned, have our annual Spirit Week, Fall Spirit Week and Pep Rally, capped off by the long-standing tradition of costume contest, and fun was had by all. It was a really good time, really good vibe throughout the building, and Maggie and one of her friends emceed the ceremony, and it went really well. And, Maggie, I forget who won the tug of war again.
Staff?
The staff one. The
Oh,
so you just wanted.
You forgot.
That was a setup.
Oh, needed a little reminder on that, I see. Yep.
That's right, yep, took down the seniors.
You're really proud of that, aren't you?
So we have parent-teacher conferences tomorrow night and next Monday. We also have the New Hampshire Higher Education Assistance Foundation coming in tomorrow night for parent presentations. Friday, we have our first in-person in-school college and career fair. We have over 30 colleges coming. We have all CTE schools coming to present their programs. We have all branches of the military represented. We also have some local businesses and career opportunities coming to present for our students. So we're really looking forward to that. That'll be the first time we've done that. So looking to continue that and improve upon it. We have our early release before Thanksgiving break on Tuesday next week. And right after we get back from Thanksgiving break, we have our Fall Performing Arts is presenting The Great Gatsby. And then we jump right back into, we have our Fall Guitar Night, which is the week after that. So performing arts activities are in full swing when we get back from Thanksgiving break.
Busy times. Thank
Busy,
you
busy,
very
busy.
much.
Yep.
Any comments or questions on that? Did I interrupt you?
No, I was just going to say, in addition, I have the attached, we have our Spanish foreign travel proposal, which I'm happy to answer any questions about. And after that, we can dig into the course enrollment class size report, which is in PDF format here and also in spreadsheet format.
So are there any questions on Tim's board report? How about questions on the trip to Spain?
Sounds fun.
I know, it looks great. So the board report looks great. And again, same thing with the Veterans Day. Glad that you guys follow that continued tradition. I also am really happy to see the tradition of the Halloween pep rally continue and all of that, because it's great fun for the kids.
Yeah, Veterans Day was great. It didn't make any, how did you get it in your board report? It was the last Thursday. So anyway, we had Veterans Day last week as well, and it was a wonderful ceremony.
Right.
And I'd be happy to report out more officially on it next month.
Right.
But yeah, Veterans Day is
Awesome.
always a great ceremony.
And then, does the Spain trip need a board approval?
I believe it was coming back
It'll come back in,
next month.
It'll come
Because
back
the board
next
had asked us not to.
okay, right, no, we don't like to do them,
Yep.
we like to look. So this would be an opportunity, if anybody has questions on the Spain trip to, I think the presentation and the packet was well developed. I looked through it, it looked really exciting and fun. It's expensive, but it's a trip to Europe and it's optional, so. And it's certainly not any cheaper to go to Europe since COVID, that's for sure. So if there are any, this is your opportunity to ask questions on this one. Okay, I'm moving, yeah.
Just in general, do we ever subsidize any students who want to go and are having financial difficulty? Is there a mechanism for that?
Yeah, within this agency, my understanding is there are fundraising opportunities that individuals can take on, and there's also scholarship opportunities that they can apply for through excursion.
I guess.
The name of the company.
It's a repeated comment, but if we could really make that known and make sure that there's no
Yeah. Call out.
stigma attached.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to, so we will have that on the, that'll be on the agenda next month to be approved, or to be voted on, I should say. Okay. Program of studies. I think that's next, right? You wanna do that
Either one
first?
we could do
I think we should do
alone.
that first. That way, I think Maggie's would probably love to get
Okay.
home, but I would love to have her stay through program of studies, and then I think class size is probably less interesting to a student.
I got nothing to do. So. I'm all set.
Okay.
All yours.
So, do you want to do the highlights document first?
Mrs. Eller's going to present.
Oh, Amanda. Welcome, Amanda. Great.
The program of studies is a really unwieldy, large document, so we like to give you the highlights of some of the stuff to focus your attention, but the actual document has these different topics in yellow highlighted so that you can locate them. In general, a lot of our work went into looking at our prerequisites in the program of studies and kind of trying to figure out how to make those work more effectively. The focus went from teacher recommendation being a barrier to focusing on what courses are going to best prepare you for the next course in the sequence. So our teachers in our department spent some time looking at those to articulate that a little more clearly. What course is going to prepare you for success in the next course? So that teacher recommendations were more of an advisory, a guideline, not the way into something. So that took some time, thought, and a lot of careful discussion at the departmental level. One to point out, performing arts, just to show what we were looking at, performing arts added one of the general ensembles as their prerequisite before you could take the honors level, and that felt like a way that evened out the progression they wanted to see in students. So I pulled that out as an example of some of the thought that went into checking and looking at our prerequisites to make sure that across departments we had a similar approach to getting students prepared for higher level courses. In the performing arts honors, didn't have that before, and now it reflects the similar process for other departments. Dual enrollment is a term we're using to generalize what used to be called Running Start. The colleges have changed their terminology. If you want, they have lots of very lovely flyers that they're willing to provide if you want them. It's now called Early College. And it's through associations through the community colleges. So they've put everything under this umbrella of early college with different options about how to access that. So our Running Start classes aren't called Running Start anymore. They're called early college classes. The term dual enrollment is more generalized across all of these sorts of classes. So we opted to use that so that we might have some sustainability in the course titles and we don't have to change them according to the program changes. Dual enrollment is a term for anything that involves a high school and a college paired in one way or another. So we have several math classes that fall into that category. We have a writing class that falls under that category. And some of our Project Lead the Way is still saying Project Lead the Way, but they're under this umbrella of a dual enrollment option. So that term, we tried to catch every instance of where that appears in our program and make sure it was called dual enrollment. There is one Project Lead the Way course we had to be specific about, but it highlights something that's going on with our dual enrollment pairings. We would like to offer the course, Engineering Essentials, under the same umbrella as all the other Project Lead the Way courses where they can get community college credit, but we don't have a paired partner this year. So our ability to do that depends on our ability to have a paired teaching partner at the community colleges, and some of our courses aren't going to meet that every year. The ones that are most likely to have that tentative status are in our engineering department. But so far, we've had a pretty good run with Mr. Photo really leading that program and doing a good job of heightening student interest, and he's on board for using this as a dual enrollment class whenever the opportunity arises. So he's on deck and ready to go. He's worked pretty hard to make sure that the engineering program is robust and has quite a following, if you ask me. Social studies needed to make sure some of our requirements at the state level were articulated more clearly. We have a local civics assessment that we've been doing for quite a while, but we put the language in the generalized social studies description and in the civics course itself, designating that there is a local, what we call local assessment. It's integrated into the course quite authentically, but we need to designate that all students have passed this assessment in order for them to graduate. I think recently we've gone through that kind of specific spelling out of the process for the citizenship test. So we added that language last year. We realized we needed the same language for the local assessment. So it's nothing new, but we want to make the language clear. Economics has a similar shift in it is incorporating, it has in the past incorporated a personal finance element. However, we're making sure the course title reflects this, so there isn't a question as to whether all of our students have gone through a personal finance piece in our curriculum. So the course title is changing from economics to Introduction to Economics and Personal Finance. because that gives us a solid framework to say, yes, this is part of the course. Yes, all of our students have encountered it as they are now required to do at the state level. So social studies really had to work to make sure that all of this was clear in our program of studies and supported in how we were presenting our coursework. We're removing a course from social studies. I don't think we're running it this year. It's contemporary issues. Other courses have just become more popular, and so it didn't seem like a necessary element. And it kind of just changed with current flux in topics, and that just wasn't a good option for us to have something where the topics could change without a whole lot of front work to that. So that course will not be offered. We have some new courses, though. English, we have a great course. I think you've been presented with these, but English has professional and business writing. Science, we're bringing back a course we've taught in the past. Environmental science, we currently have AP environmental science, but we don't have a non-AP option. So we're reintroducing the old environmental science course. We have offered here, it's titled ESOL, but we're moving it to more appropriate language, which is EL. And we are making sure that it is a credit-bearing course, not just a student support service. So you'll see that in the language, in the program of studies, that it no longer says ESOL, it says EL, which is the more current and relevant terminology. It's not English for speakers of other languages, it's English learners. So our teacher for that at the high school, Lauren Gross, has been very attentive to making sure that our programming is current and relevant. She's put a lot of thought into how she offers that. And so as a credit-bearing course, that makes a lot of sense for the track our students are currently taking when they're designated through this EL process. Social studies has the bulk of new courses, anthropology, Project Startup, The Entrepreneur's Journey, and music and American history. And world language has an interesting course called archaeology, which we're excited to see one of our teachers take on and see where it goes. And we are preparing to add Latin 3. It's not there yet, but we opened up Latin 1 to start as a sophomore, so that when those students reach the place where they could take Latin 3, we can make that available to them. Right now, it wouldn't fit anybody's needs. There's no one who can take Latin 3 because they graduate before then. But we will add Latin 3 when this year's sophomores are available to take it. So it's a little bit of one end, and then the other will come later. As usual, our CTE updates are pending. We wait for our receiving schools to send us their course updates and try and make sure that what we put in our program of studies gets updated accordingly, but our timelines aren't always the same. What we have updated in CTE is that we removed our Milford offering so that we could streamline and focus our partnership with other schools, and focused agreements are being developed and drafted right now for us to make sure that we can support those specific partnerships with more of our programming and planning, rather than trying to scatter and take advantage of lots of things, but kind of miss the mark on some of them because of the different schedules and timelines for them. So hopefully that will help us be really solid and supportive in our CTE offerings. And I think those are the main highlights.
Great, thank you very much, Amanda. Are there any questions?
Do you know when we'll hear from the CTE?
It's a good question. Our timeline is pretty early. I have received updates from them in the past late winter,
Okay.
but it's when their schools go through their process and when we can get that information from them. It varies. It's not on a specific timeline. But we are earlier in our timeline than many schools in the area with solidifying our program of studies and our course offerings.
And thank you for putting this together and not making us go through 130 pages.
Yeah, it's not fun.
We appreciate it.
Any other questions? Tom?
Thank you. The summary is really helpful. On the dual enrollment, do we have any dual enrollment programs that are with places other than the New Hampshire community colleges?
The Project Lead the Way allows us to extend a little bit of that. They have particular formatting that I think we used to pair with NHTI, but I think that pairing has shifted. One of our courses has shifted to NCC, so I'm not quite sure what that relationship is going to look like. But Project Lead the Way lets them get credit from RTI. Let me check the wording. That's the one where there's the most.
Because I know that the ones, unfortunately, that are working with the New Hampshire community colleges offer credit sometimes for UNH, the UNH system, but very few places outside of that will accept the credits. So I was just wondering whether there's
mean-
any options.
The community college system of New Hampshire?
Yeah, the ones that they do it, so I've talked with parents whose students have taken them, and they're not accepting the credits at universities outside of New Hampshire very
Oh.
much.
My experience actually in my day job
Yep.
has been a lot of schools are
They
accepting, yep, the dual credits.
From the
CCSNH, yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
'Cause,
Not all, I mean, they have the choice.
Right.
But, yes,
Okay.
yep,
That's good.
which is good to know.
For the economics and personal finance, is the personal finance component curriculum at all dictated by the state, or is it completely up to us?
I don't think they've
The
specified.
requirement is simply that we offer the course and that there are, I want to say the RSA outlined maybe 6 topics that need to be covered.
That's the extent of it?
That's the extent of it.
And the
Have
social
we-
studies has reviewed those 6 topics, and they are included in personal finance.
Have we had to alter our curriculum to do it, you think?
I don't think so. I think they've been doing it all along, but not pulling it out under a separate umbrella, which is the case with a lot of those sorts of things. They've been there all along, they're just not articulated the way the state is asking us to do now.
So we didn't change our economics course?
Nope.
No.
So those 6 topics were already in our economics course? Okay. And do we still have a personal finance course?
We do, at the moment. That is often a place that we need to use flexible staffing choices. Right now, it's being taught by 2 of our social studies teachers. In the past, it's been taught by a math teacher
Right.
or a computer science teacher.
Right.
So it is one of those courses that lands in different places depending on how many requests we get. And it often functions as a 4th-year math experience for many of our seniors who are not math inclined to take a full-fledged, full-year credit of math their senior year. So the course itself does fill a need, so we're kind of unwilling to
Get rid of it?
get rid of it just yet.
No, I'm not asking
Yeah.
to get rid of it. I was just wondering if we still had it, that's all.
Yep, there's a reason for keeping it at this point. We are looking at maybe pairing it with and making it a continuation of, or like an advanced personal finance or an in-depth personal finance, which I think is what it does now, but maybe making clear the difference between personal finance as it's offered in the economics class and as its own semester-long course.
Okay. You're good? Any other questions?
I just was reading through this. Are you in the process still of pulling out Running Start out of next year's program of studies, like the terminology?
We're combing through to find it all. So if you
Okay.
find one, send me an email.
Alan?
If you do, it would be great to find it, because
Yeah.
I know you usually have quite an eye for the detail of
Yeah,
it.
I do. I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, great job. Thanks, Amanda. Thank you so much. And I don't see why, okay. Thank you. I'm gonna close that out. So we will be voting, will that come up for deliberations next month?
Yes.
Okay, so,
There's some grammatical or small edits. We'll make those and I can highlight.
okay, yeah, but I mean, I
Won't be
think,
any.
right. There won't be any substantive changes, more than what you're talking about, but you might take the words Running Start out. That's okay.
Yes,
If you find more of them.
yes.
That's fine. Okay. Also, just because I'm being reminded, public input closed 10 minutes ago. 6:39 was 10 minutes ago. Well, actually 9, but it's now 6:40.
It was on time.
So it's all right. It's okay. But I didn't want to interrupt Amanda while she was
Of
talking.
course not. Go over.
Okay. Okay.
This was public output.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So now on to class sizes. Tim?
All right, so similar to Patrick, the spreadsheet that I had shared electronically does have tabs at the bottom for each department.
Oh, you sent that via email though, right?
I did, yeah. I was unable to.
No, that's fine.
So,
Are you going to go off of that?
yeah, the document, the PDF that's on the, in the board docs has all of the courses listed initially by department in a singular list.
Right.
And then I tease them apart, so we could view them with both the spring projections and then the actual numbers together. So that's what I was planning on referencing.
I actually thought that was the most helpful document of all the things. My opinion, the most helpful was the document that you created, and it's the first time you've done it this way, where you laid out the projections and then you had I don't know if anybody else is in agreement, but of the three things that I looked at, the spreadsheet where you can just, I know Tom likes to be able to manipulate things, but now I can't pull it up, but the one that you're talking about, the second part of that. I'm gonna
Yeah,
pull
no,
it up.
that's still in PDF format.
Right.
If you can't find it.
No, I got
it's
it.
in
I'll
the
get
board-
it in a
the
second.
board
It's
packet.
just-
So,
Yeah, it's in the packet.
in
I thought that
addition
was
to
best
the
one.
projections, which when we make those are, obviously they haven't been broken apart yet, so those are clearly just averages, 100 or however many students divided by the number of sections. So I did the same thing for the fall numbers. So we looked at the average size numbers in addition to each individual section. So it gives a little bit better view as to the total enrollments for each course. So I will go through, I'll highlight a couple things, but obviously I'm open to questions and comments. But if you look first at the facts numbers there, you can see, as an example, fashion, retail, merchandising, we had 11 requests. We ran one section. All 11 kiddos ended up in that section that's scheduled to run second semester. Foods and nutrition, as you can see, they were slated for 16 a section. We ended up at 14.8 per section. So just to give you kind of an idea of how the spreadsheet is formatted. Foods and nutrition 2, similarly did dip a little bit. We have a section that ended up losing some students in that second semester. So one note, a lot of the second semester numbers will fluctuate between now and the time they actually they run next semester. There will be movement. There's an add drop period at the beginning of the semester. So students will pick up electives and also move out of electives similar to the beginning of the year. So moving on from facts, family and consumer science, to our math department. And again, these are listed alphabetically, both in the projections and then on the enrollments in the bottom. So as an example, if you look at Excel geometry, we had 25 requests. We offered 2 sections, and we ended up with just about 21 students. So 4 students ended up elsewhere in a different math outside of Excel geometry. So you can compare and contrast the numbers from what the projections were. Our math numbers ended up all pretty healthy, pretty close to where we targeted based on our projections. AP Computer Science is listed under math here. I just want to point that one out. That course, although we lost our computer science teacher early on, we did still run it, and we do have 20 students enrolled in that course. So all signs point to a successful year for that group. Or the real highlights in math. Of course, we can come back if there's questions at the end. PE and health, I do want to point out a couple things here. So if you recall, we added a course. We had lengthy discussion about what course should come off. If we add a course, should there be something else? There's only so many students. And we did see that kind of play out in our low enrollments in team and individual sport. That particular course is being offered period 7. Our goal will be to limit that potential from happening next year when we put the schedule together, and having our PE electives running periods 2 through 6 and limit the number of students who are dropping that. If you look at the projections, we had 31 requests for that course, projecting at 15.5 per section, and clearly those numbers did not play out as planned. One note there, we do combine PE classes on a regular basis, so we have 2 teachers teaching that period. Oftentimes we will offer multiple activities. The 2 teachers will divide and conquer the 2 groups, that the freshmen and the elective students. So we do have areas for improvement there, that being one of them. And then again, like I noted before, the intro to strength and conditioning, that semester 1 class filled nicely. You get 17 students in there. The hope will be semester 2 that will fill as well. Right now, that's running low, but like I said earlier, the semester 2 numbers will fluctuate as we approach the second semester. And wellness and fitness, those are similar to maybe as like Patrick was mentioning before, kind of the predetermined sections. Almost every single freshman takes those classes, so with very few exceptions. So those numbers are kind of split up based on the size of that particular class. Science, I just want to point out, so we did have a teacher resign earlier in the year. We had to make some adjustments. We did bring someone on, but in a 0.6 capacity, so we did have to consolidate a physical science section. So we split that up. We had projected 8 sections of physical science. We ended up with only 7. We were able to move a handful of students into some other groups and make that switch work. We have pretty healthy numbers across the board. I think our projections are, again, if you look back and forth between the projections and the enrollments, we landed pretty close to what our projections were. So pretty happy with how science played out. Again, like I mentioned earlier, the AP Physics classes are running, the AP Physics 2 classes running at 10, and the 2 AP Physics 1 classes running at 12 and 14. So those students are getting a good experience despite a little scare at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Let's see, physical science. Like I said, that was reduced down to 7 sections. Just a general note here, as we, if you see a low number there, there are certainly courses that we offer with intent to run at low numbers. As an example, in the math, I skipped over it earlier, but in the math offerings, individual math, those are purposefully single-digit, low enrollment numbers to provide the the direct instruction that some students may need. Oftentimes, students on individual education plans, and so if there's a number on here that stands out, feel free to ask about it. But the likelihood is that it is within 10. Social studies, again, those numbers last year we discussed at length here at this board meeting last November, how they were actually pretty large. Our overall averages were on the higher end compared with some of the other core courses. So our projections did end up pretty darn close to where we ended up with enrollments. Run 2 sections AP Psych, just under 20 on average. AP US Gov, a little bit smaller, in the mid-teens. AP US History, same thing. AP World, only 2 sections this year. I think we ran 3 last year, and those sections are just under 20 at 18.5. Civics and Economics, similar to Wellness and Fitness. Those are somewhat predetermined based on the size of the class, size of the junior class that year. Let's see. We have some electives there, like we mentioned earlier. We do have a handful of new electives that we'll hopefully be offering next year, and we'll see how those fill during the course request process in the spring. Visual arts, we did run AP Art this year. We are running that at 9 students, which is a healthy number for that particular course. Ceramics, 17.5. Digital photography, that course has become more popular over the last couple of years with the hiring of a new teacher, Ms. Steffensmeyer, in the visual arts. So she's done a really nice job with that. And again, a semester 2 enrollment looking pretty small there, but again, with the hopes that that'll fill. That's digital photography 2, so students would need the prereq of 1 before they can take that class. So the hope is that we'll see that number rise in the second semester as well.
Would you run it with just 4?
We would run it as it's slated now, yeah. Performing arts, we do have, I want to point out a couple things here. So our projections for the spring, as an example, let's see, we have acting one, we had a projection of 14. That class ran at 9. We have a second semester dance and movement, similar to the comment about the second semester courses before. Our hope will be that that number will increase. We did run guitar this year. We had 9 requests. We did decide to run a singular section. It ended up running at 7. And our improv class, we have 8 students currently enrolled in Improv 1, and then the Improv 2 class there, that will run next semester again. Oftentimes students who take Improv 1 will take Improv 2, but you cannot, it's a prerequisite, so we'll hopefully see that number increase.
Would you run it for 1 or 2 students?
So we'd probably look to have Mr. Barbosa serve a different role if it's only 1 or 2 students.
And a note, last year we changed the prerequisite, not the structure of the choir and band to a full year 1 credit course. And the report from our band and choir teacher is that that is doing wonders for their ability to create really wonderful experiences for our music students. So that won't appear in the class sizes, but that change was really significant for them as instructional building of their programs.
Yeah, so those numbers there are pretty healthy. We have honors choir running at 23, and the let's see, the concert band running at, the concert choir running at 31 kids. So those sections did fill with the change to the new format.
Is jazz band, is this just an off year? That's a really small number. It used to be a pretty big class.
I can get last year's numbers for you, Tom.
I don't know about last year, but I mean, just
Oh, and part of that is answered by, we made jazz band a prerequisite for honors jazz band. So we've shifted to make sure that we have more freshmen not jumping over that class to get to the honors, because the music teachers do want their incoming students to have that freshman experience,
So-
not at the honors level. So that number itself should automatically bump up next year.
what's the threshold for getting into honors? You can do that as a sophomore?
You audition in the spring of the year before.
But you can be as a sophomore? Okay, it used to be only juniors and seniors.
No, it's different. This year, we even had some freshmen go into it because we were trying to build the music program, but I think our instructors have a good balanced approach to how to bring more freshmen in without letting them jump over some of the foundational jazz and concert band and choir.
In general, our band numbers have seen a significant decrease since COVID.
Yeah, I'm
Trying
just
to
wondering
build
if
it back. And that's across the
It's
entire
hard,
SU.
it's hard to have a band with 4 people. I mean, it
The
loses.
Beatles did it.
It loses, it loses a lot of its impact.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think the alternative to not offering it would be pretty detrimental. Seeing the
alternative
kids
would-
the kids who are currently enrolled in these classes, the half a dozen or whatever it is, seeing them down here and sticking with their instrument through COVID with the PPE and all the accommodations that we need to make in order for them to begin their musical experience, the alternative of not offering these opportunities, I think would be pretty detrimental.
I'm just thinking, is there a way to consolidate them so you've got, I don't know if you can differentiate honors from regular and still have them together, but
They organically populate each other, meaning when he's running the smaller band, magically some of the other band members tend to be there on a regular basis. And the band cohort of students is an incredibly cohesive group of kids, and they're working really hard to pull kids in from other musical endeavors. He had a band student who became a band student because he stole them from choir, and now they're dueling on the music, but they're not doing it for credit. So they're really trying to build in a program pull that it's hard to see in numbers, but if you go into the band room for a band class, it looks different than the number on the page. It looks very, very different. And so I think they're working very hard with the 7th grade and 8th grade they've been focusing on doing more students travel down to the middle school this year. They all walk down the hill and students are coming up. I think there's a sense that we can pull more of the middle school in to be part of the high school music experience.
I would
No,
also,
but if you sanction it, and then you can schedule for it, because much of, there might be an interest in that cross-pollination, but if we don't make it part of the algorithm for the scheduling, it's luck that allows it to happen rather than intent. I'm not saying shut anything down, just the opposite, I'm looking for ways that we can
But it
make
does sound like having jazz band be a prereq and not allowing freshmen to get right into honors jazz band will maybe help those numbers get a little healthier and have more numbers in jazz band.
Ideally, yeah, that's.
Could help.
Or it could cannibalize jazz, honors jazz band.
and I just want to add that I believe it was August or September board report, Tim had shared that for the first time, our summer band camp included band members from elementary and middle school
Right.
for the purpose of saying to these younger band students, like, look where you could go, stick with us, and really trying to build a program from that age group, because that's really what saw the decline in enrollment was our elementary schools. And so now as they move up, you're seeing it at the middle school, you're seeing it at the high school. And so it's going to be a while before we catch back up, but there's certainly a lot of work that's going into building the program.
I also wonder if this is a not surprising consequence of the removal of class rank, because the honors jazz band and honors choir used to be a really good mechanism for bolstering class rank.
Interesting observation. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, Tim, world language maybe?
Yep, so world language, I know AP French has historically been one of the classes we look at, talked about, offering it every other year type thing. We had 11 requests in the spring, it ran at 7. AP Spanish, 17, with 20 requests in the spring, ended up running at 17. Let's see, within the world language, we have the Senior Quest option, and that's being taught by Mr. McFarland this year. That's why it appears in the world language department. But I think it was, we had a discussion about that and how many students take it at an honors level, and I did tease that apart. So one student opted for it this year. It is running at a smaller number, but nonetheless, I do hear positive things about that class and the offering for students to kind of do some individualized personal research and work there. So let's see. Intro to Modern Language was a light number this year. That is students coming up from the middle school, oftentimes students who maybe didn't take a world language at the middle school and maybe are not ready for that first level language at the high school level yet. So that did run, but similar to some of the conversations we were having earlier, the intent there is not to have a very large teacher-to-student ratio. Try to keep that one small to begin with.
Do we consider the middle school language a prereq? Does it offer any placement?
You can start at the second level at the high school with recommendation from your middle school teacher. You are not required to do so. You can take 2 years of middle school language and you can start a Spanish 1.
But there is the potential, if someone is proficient, that they can start off at the second level at the high
That's right.
school.
Yep, and like we talked about with policy, that's as a prerequisite only. There's not credit offered there.
Right. Do you have any thoughts of whether Latin 3 will pull students from other languages versus pulling it from other subjects?
My sense would be
I mean,
it'll pull from other languages.
so the
my
kids
sense.
who taking
Kids
Latin 1 and 2 now, were they in a different language that they stopped taking prior to that?
Or they're taking it as a second language without the third level, which many college-bound students are looking to take a language for 3 consecutive years. Latin didn't provide that with only the 2. So I think there's potential for us to see the Latin numbers pull from the other 2 world languages.
Will we have to, so that would likely, assuming the skill set is there with our staff, it would not require additional staffing, it would just shift of
I don't
allocation?
anticipate it, especially with Mr. McFarland, his schedule being rounded out this year with Intro to Modern Language and the Senior Quest. I think staffing will be able to
We're
make-
well positioned for it.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Don't we have an extra section of Spanish running this year? Do we have that? In past years, we've
In
often
past
had
years,
to
we
add
have,
a
yeah.
section onto French or Spanish, and someone has taken on an additional teaching section. So the indication is there's some room for some students to take another language if
Yeah, some of our-
if they're not sticking with what they are. A lot of our Latin students were students who didn't particularly enjoy their journey through Spanish or French, but still want the experience of a language. And so Latin gave them the option to try something that wasn't of the same mold of the current spoken languages.
It's great for talking about farming and wars, I found out.
I've sat in Mr. McFarland's classes, and you would be stunned at some of the ways he connects that language to very current, very relevant issues. He's quite a teacher.
Agreed. All right, English, we have a number of things here I want to just highlight. So Read 180, you'll see those numbers are significantly low. Reason being, we have a teacher who's out on leave right now, and that class is being taught by case managers. So you'll see the numbers in the actual, not in the projections, but down in the report for enrollments for the fall. I think it might.
They're
say
small.
0.
Yeah.
It's blank. Yeah. So that particular course right now was broken apart and is being taught by case managers. So when our teacher returns, which will be the start of the new year, those students will repopulate those classes with that teacher.
You're talking about where it says there's one student?
There was one
Action, it says in the action.
One.
it's got
It says one.
There are more students than that who are in Read 180 right now. It's broken apart. It is a single-digit number, but it's not reflected in any of these reports because it's under the special ed case managers classes right now.
Sure.
Let's see.
Do you get any sense in English that, would you rather have, maybe rather's not the right word, but should we consider having fewer electives to bolster the participation in the ones that are left, from the standpoint of when you get below a certain level, it's sometimes discussions and things are not as productive as they are when you've got 8 or 10 kids.
So a large number of our elective courses are taken by seniors, right? So there's the 4-year credit requirement, and at Hollis Brookline, because we have writing, it's 4.5 credits that students need to graduate. And your standard courses in freshman, sophomore, and even junior year are the large majority of those classes, so those respective classes. And then the electives that you see, such as film studies, memoirs, poetry, those courses are often semesterized, so you'll see probably more, what appears to be more elective courses, and largely populated by seniors. You might see juniors in there taking it kind of to knock off a half a credit towards graduation requirements, but for the most part, those electives are seniors. And to your point, Tom, I think it is well stated. The more electives that you offer, the lower those enrollment numbers will be just by default. That's just the way it goes. We did add the business writing course, which I'm pretty excited about. I think that's going to be a great offering for kiddos. And then I think some of what you see too, you have teachers who it might be that course. I'm looking down here at memoirs. We had a teacher who taught that course for years. She designed it. It was a kid magnet for several years, And then, for different reasons over the years, the kids have kind of maybe gravitated towards, as an example, film studies. We offered, 7?
Film studies are incredibly popular.
5 sections of that this year,
love
5
film
sections of film studies this year. Very popular English course. And that just, several years back, it wasn't. And that's just based on, staffing and whatnot. So you do see some ebbs and some flows with enrollments for these elective courses. I do think there's the point of too many electives and consideration into, when something goes on, maybe we should look at what might make sense to pull off.
I do want to remind people, though, that like popular reading is not an
Thank you, yeah.
elective class, right?
It
It's
serves a very specific
It serves a very
purpose.
specific
Yeah,
population.
there's a track. If you
So-
look at the program of studies, you can see the
Right.
profile of student who
Right,
would take that
I know that,
course.
but if someone in the public were reading this document, popular reading is not an elective class. It doesn't fall in the same category as film studies or memoirs or anything. It just seems like it does, because it's called popular reading.
Thank you for pointing that out.
And then also, I think actually, I was looking at that specifically, Tom, and I feel like we are offering kind of the right number of electives right now in
Do
English
you like the
because
enrollment numbers?
I don't ever say I don't like any numbers, but the the enrollment numbers seem healthy to me in most of the electives, and I think that the kids are making solid choices, and I do think I see some low numbers in semester 2, but I know, having just had somebody graduate and been really in there for the last 10 years, you'll definitely see those numbers go up as kids, rejigger their schedule for second semester,
Yeah.
especially in English. but-
I didn't mean to ask as a loaded question, I'm just trying to understand, because
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think actually English has fewer electives than social studies adding 3 electives. So I'm a little concerned about the social studies
Yep.
adding those 3 electives and how that's going to play out. That's more on my pink flag for next year than English.
Yeah, and I don't, the process, and obviously you guys have decisions to make with the approval of the program, but, seeing what fills too, I think will be telling
Right.
if they are available as options for students to sign up for, to see where those chips fall, I think would also be important in making that decision in the spring when we have the projections of determining what we run and what we don't. But
can you remind us what the timeline is of when you know what your enrollment's going to be versus when you need to have your program of studies solidified so you can do the schedule, so you can do all that good stuff?
I can walk you through it because we look at it very, very carefully every year, and the dates are, we almost try to nail it down to an exact date because it's so tight. We publish the program of studies, and then teacher recommendations, or they have to be in the system before the semester turns over, because a lot of teachers don't have access to semesterized students. So all the teacher recommendations go in about the end of January, and then we have to have students look at course offerings, and that's usually in the late winter, early spring. And then come March, around the spring breaks, we coordinate with the middle school about traveling down to the middle school to educate 8th grade students and parents, and we coordinate up here to run everybody through information sessions in March. In April, usually we try to aim for student to have their course requests in around the spring break, around that time, and then Carol sends us the numbers after spring break, and we work very carefully with those numbers to see what courses it makes sense to offer. We meet with department chairs and heads through the month of April, and we're already usually behind schedule at that point, because then we have May for Carol to load those things into the system, and then the students to load into the system, and we're pushing to get schedules out by June, so it's about a month a chunk for every piece, and our counselors go over these student schedules with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that every student has met their requirements. So it's a tight timeline at every step of the process.
But what you're describing, you will have some insight as to actual semester 2 enrollments before you're completely locked into the scheduling assignments and building of the schedule for next year.
And Tim made sure we took some really careful time at that step this year. I mean, he really had us look at those numbers before we moved forward with, okay, we're comfortable with these numbers, Now let's work with the actual student schedules. And even with the time he took, which, you know, I'm sitting there looking at my timeline going, Tim, can we be faster? And he said, no, this is important. That time still resulted in some of this that you're seeing and trying to work through. So it's a tightrope walk.
No, it's,
Yeah,
and
so-
I think it's great, like the colleague said, you're seeing being able to look at the projections, looking at the reality, and just having a feedback loop in that process. This is a lot less speculative than it's been in previous generations.
Yeah, and it's good for us too, and there has been more hand scheduling with specific courses in different parts of the day. And then also part of that process too, obviously in March, we're doing contracts. So determining what we need when we're in the process of figuring out what we need presents challenges there as well. So anyway, moving on, almost done. Engineering and computer science. As a reminder, we did not run a handful of the computer science offerings this year. And again, just a reminder that a lot of those projections, a lot of those spring numbers were a topic of conversation here at this board meeting when we were looking to run classes with 8 requests or 2 sections of a class with under 30 requests. So we ended up not running. We consolidated 3 personal finance sections down into 2, and
Did you do 2 in one semester or 1 in each?
1 each. Yeah. So I think the 3 were 2 and 1, and then we ended up just with 1 and 1.
Some of those numbers with that, we had to make those adjustments after we had set up sections. So some of those numbers are reflective of students making other choices as we're trying to consolidate and create new offerings. So those we did not have a chance to review in our typical process.
And you can see the numbers in Devin's engineering classes are pretty healthy.
Yeah.
Devin, just as a note, he is teaching AP Computer Science as a 6th class. So we will be looking to potentially rearrange how those to make if in the event we end up there, if AP Computer Science ends up in his teaching responsibilities next year. It would be 1 of 5, I guess is what I'm saying, and not 1 of 6.
Great.
And of
Will you have
course,
to backfill for them, and will you lose a course?
not quite sure where that'll fall yet. As you can see, there's some courses like engineering technologies. We have 2 offerings each semester. I think the intro course would be the class that I think based on his feedback, we would look to remove and replace with AP Computer Science. We had the lowest enrollment out of the courses, and then also I think programmatically a lot of the concepts covered in that intro class can be taught in some of the other engineering courses. And
Wow.
Of course, I'm open to any questions or comments.
Any more questions?
Thank you, it's a lot of work.
Thank you
It
so
sure
much,
is.
Tim. Really, honestly, like the spreadsheet you send out with us being able to kind of manipulate it, that's great. But I really think this last format is the most helpful to me. This projections with the averages, but also with each section, it gives us everything we need to know in the one document. I think is the best. But that's just my opinion.
This is probably one of the most impactful areas of all the board does as far as having direct impact on student outcome.
Yeah. So it's really great, and it's very clear from looking at this that you are all of you are taking so much time to think through every class, every request. I mean, this is it's very complicated, and the complexities of this, we can't understand sitting in these chairs. So I appreciate the time and effort that you, your team, Carol, the counselors, everyone does to get this done, because this is really, really complex stuff. And our kids, I'm sure, don't understand how hard it is, because I'm sure a lot of them have gone home like, my schedule doesn't work. But you work really hard to make sure that they can get what they need, and that's really great. So,
Thank you.
Does our schedule produce inherent heterogeneity, or is there a lot of unintentional leveling that comes in because of the way that we build our classes?
I think there's a degree of unintentional leveling. Yeah, with the, I'll just, we have a large number of math offerings, which I think is one of the reasons why our math department is so strong, because we hit the nail on the head. We meet kids where they're at, and then just based on you have 7-period day, and you have X number of students, and based on like the opposite of what we were talking about with the middle school, there are so many different offerings in each department. There are at times some default impact that some of the same students are in the same social studies class that took math together, or and that's not by design, and it's noted, and we do provide resources around those situations when necessary, but it's in some ways a challenge to avoid that type of situation.
It sort of reinforces the value that we would get out of some other element of our day that was
Yep.
less.
Not like that, yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much, just to keep us on schedule. I'll move on unless somebody else has another question. Thanks, Patrick and Tim and everyone, for your board reports. We're going to move on to budget discussions and annual meeting discussions, so you don't have to stay if you're not. Amanda, Maggie, please feel free to go. Patrick and Tim, are they,
When you can.
are we in need of them for policy and all that, Gina? What's our take on that?
I don't think so.
I think you guys, do you think there's any policies?
just
that-
check policies.
Just check your policies, guys, and see if you need to be here for that.
I thought he was just reaching to close.
I know, I was like,
Nope. Oh, no.
Thank you very
I
much
will
for
check
coming.
policies,
Thank
yes.
you. All right.
I don't have.
Yeah,
prepared.
yeah.
We're going to have to do anything on the middle school course proposal? Is there any need?
Oh, there is a couple of we're not deliberating on the course proposal though, right?
Yes, we are.
Oh, we are.
Yep.
Okay, but Lauren's here to take that, so yeah, we're okay.
Non-public, you don't need.
You can't be. I'm just kidding.
Mhm.
I don't even know if there is one. No, I don't think
Okay,
so.
no, I think we're good.
I'm not gonna argue.
Where's the deliberative item on the writing? Where's that?
But I will make one of those Monday.
No, I don't have it.
If we get that.
So the agenda was amended
Okay, well, that's
like
great.
Monday morning.
Okay.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, yeah, there you go, okay. All right, so we're gonna let,
Based on a reminder from our staff.
okay,
Yes.
we're gonna first topic is the budget.
Yes, I just wanted to start, because I know the board had received an email regarding the budget that we're in. And if you remember last month, we brought forth a revenue and expense report that Linda Kelly and I had been looking at and knew we had some concerns with. And when you look at numbers, sometimes you can't necessarily see it right away. And between Linda leaving and Linda coming to the meeting, she determined where that glitch was in the program. But the result of that really doesn't change anything from the standpoint, right now, with everything encumbered, which means that if you're going to get shocks to dissect in the spring, that money's encumbered. You know, all your payroll's encumbered, all your health care's encumbered. So everything's encumbered. We're projecting right now that we're on the negative side of about $200,000, which is what we anticipated based on that. Now, there are three reasons for that. Number one was staffing. We hired a much more seasoned staff. There are a couple reasons for that. This is one of the few times historically that a veteran staff member of 15-plus years could move from one district to the other and get hired, because payroll and the situations is forcing that. Number two, there was a significant change in healthcare. We had a number of staff members who weren't taking healthcare with us because of their spouse's situation. they were forced to join us, so we went from a zero cost to somewhere between $10,000 and $25,000, depending on what they take for a single, two-person or family. And then, as always, when we sit here and talk, like we will tonight, about the FY25 budget, we're also talking about only the special education children that we know of. So we don't know anybody who's going to move in January. We don't know anybody who's going to move in next summer. And those costs are mandated costs. So those are the three big drivers. Why do we go into a freeze? Well, we go into a freeze for a couple reasons. Primarily, it's because when we start the school year, people forget that we are closing fiscal year 23. We are running fiscal year 24, and we are planning fiscal year 25. And we have what I would say a very fine-tuned business office, but the staffing component of those three things going on at once is very difficult, especially when you're looking at FY23 being a full-blown audit, and it takes up basically a week to 10 days just for them to physically be here, let alone to prep. When we freeze a budget, it has no impact on curriculum or purchases because all of that's been encumbered. What we freeze it is to find out maybe what the principals had for their wish list items and those things, because there are always those type of items. And then what typically happens as we move through the year, we get much more realistic numbers. Like, I'll give you an example. Right now, we have every dollar that we allocated for snow plowing encumbered. If we have a mild winter, that number will come in less. If we have a more significant winter, that might go over budget. And we're constantly fine-tuning the budget in that sense. So I wanted to let people know that, like, no child is being hindered from anything curriculum-wise. And during a freeze, if something came up that was required, it just requires the principal, if it's a curriculum piece, they're going to probably call Gina and say, hey, we need to get this. I've got to encumber it. It happens. And Gina and Kelly will work together, and that will happen through Linda. They might contact me. They might contact Kelly or Linda directly. But it's not unusual for us to be in a freeze. I've done it a number of times since I've been here. We have done it a number of times across the SAU. Typically, if we get into a situation where we're really concerned about the budget, we would ask Linda to make monthly presentations of the expenses and revenues. We do a full-blown presentation every quarter. They're always in the board packet, and there's no hiding anything. It's pretty cut and dry. With regard to if we were running tight, if they were new special ed costs, I would come to the board and go into and ask for permission to utilize the special ed trust fund, because that's what it's designed for. If it was something that came up that was unexpected, we have a contingency fund. If it was something that we felt needed to be done, like I'll give you an example. Last year we had to do some compliance issues around Americans with disabilities. So we used the unretained fund balance as our mechanism. Now, we didn't eventually even need to use it, but on paper, that's where we started the process so that everybody would always see where the dollars. Those three accounts can't be touched without coming to the school board. So those are at your discretion. Within the budget, we may decide not to purchase something or to delay something based on how the budget is running. So we're always, available to answer any questions about the budget, and I think we have one of the most transparent processes, whether it's creating or publicizing them, as any district as I know of. And a number of the pieces that are significant that people forget, we could have a child join us in the summer, and that child comes with a $400 cost or a $400,000 cost. Both of those happen. In terms of Lauren works with Kelly to encumber all those monies. And it's when it's a new child, we will tend to probably, I'll use the word, my word, not theirs, over encumber. Because if all of a sudden we realize that a child needs 5 hours of service a week rather than 3, those hourly services are, at about $100 an hour to $200 an hour. So I think when Linda comes back in December, we'll have a much more concrete number. We have 2 out of our 3 budgets frozen right now. And we went pretty much the entire school year with one of our districts being frozen last year, and still ending up in the black. So I just
Andy?
wanted to start there before the discussion.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I think the misconception is when people hear freeze, they're conflating that with freezing spending.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're not freezing spending. What we're doing is we're just saying, okay, we want to stick with our plan and not go off the rails.
Correct.
And not create new purchase orders.
Right,
That's
right.
big.
So,
Right.
so it's not that it's not like government shutdown and all these other things that people are
Right.
so
Right.
sensitive to.
Right, and I think that the piece is that we encumber everything, so that's all done for the entire year. You know, payroll, substitutes, all of that's encumbered. I guess freeze is more our word because that means everything outside of what's been encumbered.
So just for anyone who would be listening, what that means is that you've requested from the building principals, leadership, everyone who would ask for money to send you their purchase orders, their requests before September 30th. So you know what needs to be paid out, and you've already recorded all of that. So what is out there is something new that might be qualified under a budget line item, but it's not something that you've heard of. So that's the stuff that you're going to say, hold it, wait, we're kind of frozen on that until we talk about it and figure it out. And if it was something that was really important for the kids, if it was an academic priority, if it was a curriculum priority, if it was a new set of workbooks that somebody just figured out they desperately needed, it wouldn't necessarily be a no. It's just a fine-tooth comb, wait, we're going to take a minute.
Right.
Is that what I'm
Exactly.
just...
That's right. We
Okay.
spend all summer into September 30th is the cutoff for creating purchase orders. So, for example, maybe there's a textbook line with a $40,000 budget, and there's a purchase order for $30,000, because they know they're going to spend $30,000. There's still $10,000 open, we call it. That's what's frozen right now. That's the part that the teacher says, we don't need that, we don't think we need it, but we probably will use it sometime in the year. At this point in time, we're saying, go ahead and spend the $30,000 and hold off on that $10,000
Right.
until we know our numbers better.
Yeah.
I just, every day get requests. This morning I had a request from a special ed secretary saying we need headphones for a special ed child. Of course, create that purchase order.
Right.
So we're not saying no new purchase orders at all, we're saying it's a case-by-case instance that we're looking at.
Okay. To slow your roll, it's not a freeze. Yeah, I got it. But it's technically a freeze, I get it.
So moving from there to FY '25. In operating budget. And right now, after round 2, in round 1, we were at $29.5 million of request. In round 2, we're at $28,600,000, almost $700,000. So there's already been a significant reduction between rounds 1 and 2. Our difference, or percent of increase right now, is about a little over 7%. Working with the Budget Committee and their meetings, they have provided us a preliminary guidance amount of $28,071,084. When we look at that compared to our round 2 number, which we have $28,689,009, we see that we have to reduce our budget by $617,925.07. Realistically, we're in pretty good shape for round 2. Because historically, we have always asked the principals to ask for everything they can think of in round 1. And what will happen now is Kelly and I start to fine tune and working with Linda to get to round 3. So I'm just going to run you through kind of what's in round 2, some of the things we're looking at, and sometimes what will happen is we will move something out of the budget into the maintenance trust, and something that is in maintenance trust right now might become delayed. And Lance will be involved in those discussions because it's a facilities matter usually when it's maintenance trust. So under round 2, under academics, one of the things that we're still talking about is the cool-down zones. We very much agree that we need them, but we don't have any of them, so we may look to just reduce that number so we can pilot the program and determine its rate of success. As I said to you tonight, we are seeing a retirement of our music teacher. So a lot of times I don't like to spend money to now somebody that's brand new is forced into using something that they may not want you to use. So we'll take a good hard look at that. We don't intend to cut anything under our mentoring program or any of those lines items under the high school. It's very limited dollars. We have textbooks for AP Calculus, Geometry, and Business and Professional Writing, which is the new course that we approved. So we feel very confident about those curriculum pieces. Under personnel, the high school is looking for, just to advance their stipends. The middle school. So mountain bike club, climbing club. The only major dollar amount there is the after-school academic support. That started during COVID to help kids catch up, and we have seen some great success with that program, so we'd like to take that from a grant-funded piece and move it into our budget. At the high school, we are presently in discussions about doing the back of the building, the security entrance, so it'd be similar to the front of the building, and that would be a significant change. The actual physical component is later on in the budget, but we would need a staffing person at the back security for monitoring the entrance. So that position is in there. Then Tim has some stipends again, chess club, ultimate frisbee, things of that nature.
Andy, can
Yep.
I just ask you, with the back entrance, can't you just do it with the camera and the buzzer like you do at the front?
We would hope to do a double door foyer type of situation. So it'd be similar to the front entrance. So there'd be an office, there'd be buzzers, but there would be that,
So they'd have to go in and then they'd have to pass by someone to actually get into the building?
correct.
What type of a staff member would serve that purpose?
Like the same skill set as a paraprofessional. You know, it's,
I mean, is it, it's not just a case of relocating someone's office to be in a visible area versus getting a new person?
well, we had talked about, locating the SRO with that person, because their office is in the back of the building, but the SRO would not be the school's person. And again, we're still discussing that, because, when we look at our paras and all the different things, we're just trying to figure out what's the best strategy to staff that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that probably a lot of the time, that person, it will just be their office.
Correct. We would look at things like, can we put copiers in there and use them for teachers dropping off copy materials and different things like that? Because I agree with
Department
you.
chairs.
Yep. Under special education, we are looking at 2 paras, one at the middle school and one at the high school. Both of those paras would be assigned to specific programs that would require an increase in days and hours. So those 2 would be benefits eligible positions. More and more of our students coming in require a longer school day and a longer school year, and thus those particular paras would qualify. We have gone through the replacement computer equipment in that cycle when Carol did her presentation. So you see the various requests for our staff and student laptops and Chromebooks. As you know, we're making the transition to interactive flat panels, and we have some of those allocated to each of the buildings.
So is that why we saw an increase from round 1 to round 2? Is that,
Correct.
that's based on her
Correct.
presentation from last month?
Yep. When we did the Chromebook study, we found that the presentation that Carol made was the most cost-effective way to fund the Chromebooks. They weren't in round 2, but they were added to,
They weren't in round one.
round 1, they were added to round 2. We have a little bit more in security, the IT managed services. More and more on a daily basis, we have different individuals worldwide that are pinging our networks, sending phishing emails, a variety of different things like that. These are just more security measures to try to maintain the security and, of our data. Most of the athletics pieces that were there are going to be bought out of the pay-for-play money. So they will still be getting their equipment based on Brian's recommendations, but it will be done through the athletic fees. In terms of the safety compliance issues, we did not qualify for the radio system grant. We are, again, out there looking for other grants, so we'll continue to do that from that standpoint. We are looking to do some repairs of some crumbling surfaces for the pavement out in front of the buildings. At the high school, the big ticket item in the budget, I don't know if it'll stay in the budget, is the back entrance security renovation. That is an item that we did put in for the security grant. So if we did qualify for that, $100,000 would come from the security grant, and we would either reallocate that into the maintenance trust or leave it in the budget. Moving down to the facilities maintenance, under both the high school, middle school, the big ticket is the oil tank piping or alternative. That's something we really don't have a choice in. They're upping the standards. We'll know more this month because we have a test coming up.
Do we have a date yet?
I don't have it off the top of my head.
But do we have a date, though?
We have it sometime this month, as far as I know. Those changes that we're required to do, we were able to get it delayed 1 year from last year. It's really almost 1.5% to the budget. It's $350,000 that has to be done, needs to be included in the budget. We are waiting on an answer on the underground oil tank. We believe we may be able to just fill it with sand and leave it where it is. And if that's the case, we will not be doing that $80,000 expense. Other than that, it's some kind of ongoing projects that were, in different phases that may or may not make it through. Another example of something that may get delayed, we have flooring at the high school, which is phase 1, for $25,000. We may need to just delay that to make guidance or move it into the maintenance trust. And then Kelly has provided us with a list of maintenance trust items. One of them is the high school elevator retrofit. If you walk out tonight, look to your right, you'll see that we're almost completed with the elevator. And that is a phased-in approach that we have done. And that's the same thing we're proposing for the high school. The roof section is on our roofing plan. I believe that is section 9 out of 10. So that $80,000 also represents probably close to $2 million worth of roofing over the last 10 years. At the high school and middle school, we are looking at the cameras, determining if we actually do need upgrades, but wanted to get them into the budget. So it's my belief that working with Kelly that we'll be able to get close to guidance or another reduction of $617,925 for round 3. We may ask the budget committee for relief from guidance with regard to some of the monies that were due to us for healthcare because of significant jump that was unexpected. But for round 2 in November, we're in very good shape, and I want to commend all the administrators, Kelly, Linda, and everybody who works on the budget, because I think by next month we'll kind of be in a more solid position, and we'll also know a lot more with regard to our facilities committee and our facilities project and what we'll be recommending then.
I just want to add that last week of November is when there will be testing.
And they're testing the pipes or the oil?
When's our meeting?
The following week.
Okay, thank you so much for
First
that.
Wednesday
Thanks
of
for all the
December.
hard work of the business office. It seems like it's even harder now, so thank you to them. And thank you for all the hard work that you're all doing on the budget. Are there any questions or comments on the budget process and where we are in round 2 and anything? People, hello. No questions?
I'm glad there are people that know how to do this. Really glad.
Yeah.
When's the budget hearing likely to occur?
Well, we can just look at the annual meeting timeline. That's right on there.
Next
That's
item.
What a
the next item
segue.
on the agenda. There we go.
How convenient.
In your board packet, you have the proposed annual meeting calendar for,
We don't vote on this, do we?
no,
Okay.
for the co-op, for Hollis, and for Brookline. The co-op, the last day for petition warrant articles would be February 12th. The public hearing date would be February 19th. We're really hoping that we can bring the majority of the petition warrant articles that may come in from citizens to our public hearing date on the 19th and limit how many extra public hearings we have to do in each town for certain proposals.
So that would include the budget hearing on that date?
Correct.
Did you have a question, Cindy?
Yeah, I mean, that date is I know that we're in school that day, but that's a long weekend for parents and people. I'm just wondering if we're gonna get feedback that we're not being transparent because we're not making it available at a time where everybody can come.
Is that a date or a deadline?
That's the date.
That's
The 219, Cindy?
I can tell you that just to get this to work for all 3 districts, to make, because the other thing that people have to understand is there are a lot of people behind the scenes that have to be at these dates, and not so much the
In
public
January.
hearings, but the elections.
I was looking at
And how many
January.
nights can we bring out the same individuals who volunteer to count ballots and those
Yeah.
type of things?
Vacation is
Um,
next.
So there's not really a lot of wiggle room.
And school vacation is the following week. I mean, it is President's Day, but
Yeah, I
it's
know.
school
I-
vacation, right. I can tell you, as Andy, that we went back and forth we have 2 moderators now, 3 actually, obviously, but, and we had to have a Zoom call and setting the stage. The date for our meeting changed 4 times in the last 3 weeks, so this is the date.
I think
The-
you just need to be prepared.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, we're
Well,
not trying to be
and
transparent.
I think the,
I mean, not trying to be non-transparent.
to that end,
Opaque.
Hollis,
Right, thank you.
the Hollis board, I think it will take it under consideration for all 3 boards, really kind of wants us to do more of kind of save the date, get that out to families, because from the Hollis board, they're hoping to start to really recruit their young families, because many people come to New Hampshire, they don't know what annual meeting means. You know, they're used to just going to the ballot box, so this is for some people, a foreign concept. Our school district meeting date will be the 19th, with a snow date of the 20th. And then all the other RSA required posting of the warrants and everything are outlined for you there. And the reference to the RSA that they regard on the far right.
And can I just add to that as school board members, we might want to block off the 21st as well, because if our meeting were to go 2 days and there
Yep.
be snow, there's a
Yep.
potential that we could be there the 21st as well, so.
So I thank everybody for
21st
participating
is
in
our
putting
board
that
meeting
together.
date.
We would, I mean, obviously, if our annual meeting goes 2 days and there's a snow date, we'd have to make some changes.
No, we might combine it with a board meeting, right?
Sure.
'Cause
Yeah.
It would be hopefully a shorter
Yeah,
one.
we'd meet and say, okay, thank you. Did I interrupt you?
Nope.
Are you done?
While with the board chair's permission, I'll go on to the next topic.
Please do.
Okay. In your packet, I provided you a memorandum of understanding for license. And I'd ask that the board take some time between now and December to review this so that we could have a little lengthier discussion and gain an understanding. There are some pieces of this that caused me to pause from our end, and I will give you the example. The very last one, 8.9, revocability. All conditions, covenants, and agreements contained herein are made for the direct benefit of the co-op and shall burden the town. This license is revocable by the town for any reason, subject to a written 30 days notice to the co-op.
Oh, wow.
What is this is this license for the parking lot?
Yeah,
Or is
this-
this license for the science room?
This is to solve the decade-long issue of parking, right-of-way, bus travel, all the different things that go through the Foley property. The water goes through the Foley building, but where the Hollis is the school district is the water people, so we provide it if you were using the Foley building and for the middle school.
But
I
this
have-
one, we did the land swap, though, to get the property under the building, right?
Right.
So it's not it's not the science room.
We haven't finished that,
Right, no, we have not. That's part of this, this is part of this whole grand scheme.
But it's not, that's not articulated in this.
Right.
This isn't about the land swap. This is really just about the egress, us being able to travel
This
across.
is use of the basically the parking lot and the roadway.
And the roadway that comes through.
Right. Right. So I have sent this off to legal, and I will be speaking with them between now and next month, because it also basically asks us to maintain the property, the right-of-way, remove the debris and those things. And I think when you look at it from the standpoint of existing boards now, I don't necessarily see a problem. But when I look to the future and not knowing what the Foley building will be,
Right.
that's more of my concern. So I wanted to give you plenty of time to digest it. I have let the town administrator know that I would be speaking to the board tonight, and I'll send her an email tomorrow saying that, we'll look at it again after we get more legal advice. I'm just, 30 days' notice, I don't know what we would
I
do.
don't think we can accept it.
No,
She's definitely-
no.
Who drafted this, do you know?
Who drafted this? It was the town's attorney.
I also think we need to maybe, as a board, if you have an opportunity to try to find the minutes from the Farley Building Committee that's meeting regularly, because they are getting pretty close to putting together a warrant on the town, I believe, on the town warrant from Hollis, to move forward with some construction plans as to what they kind of want to do with the building. So we should probably all kind of review those minutes and have an awareness of what the plan is. I think they're
Somebody
taking.
finds a link, if they could circulate that.
I
that would
can
be
try
helpful.
to find it if they're available. The link, my sense is, and this is just hearsay honestly, is they're thinking of like a community center of sorts. So then the parking lot would be, the parking lot over here would be used by community members that we wouldn't necessarily know who they are. So before we sign off on anything, we might want to be sure who's going to be parking in that parking lot and how that's going to go and how that's going to be monitored, because it's, 50 feet from our building. Could be cars that we're not aware of and that kind of thing. So we have some work to do on this, I think.
Correct. I do want to thank the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen, because having been here for the decade, to actually be getting words on paper,
Yeah.
we're making significant progress, and I think we'll continue to make that progress in the upcoming months.
Do you want any feedback now, or you want to wait till later?
I would prefer, if you had feedback, I'm going to be submitting questions to our attorney, so if you'd like to email me the questions, I can then email them to your attorney and get the direct response, and we can discuss those next month.
I mean, you won't be looking for a vote on this next month. You'll just be looking for feedback or giving us more feedback.
I don't think we're going to be able to vote next month, because I don't think, but again, I come back to that it's been 10 years.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So thank you for sharing that with
Yeah.
us. That's great.
The meeting, there must be somebody,
Do they not have minutes?
well, the Farley Building Community Center Committee meeting minutes ended in '21, officially.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe we should kind of see what's going on with them. All right.
Yeah.
Seems a little stale.
Little,
I'll touch base with someone on the committee and see what I can come up with.
unless
Okay.
they've moved rogue out of the town
Yeah,
website.
maybe they have.
Possibly.
Okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, so moving forward, report out from the, and there's nothing more for us to do with that. Just
Nope, we're
email
done.
you questions if we have questions or comments.
Yep.
You'll be in touch with the attorney. We'll hear back from this. This will stay on the agenda for next month.
Correct.
Great, thank you. Rob?
Yeah,
report
so
out.
the committee's continues to make very good progress. I think we're getting down to a very specific option or recommendation to bring forward. We fully intend to be on time in December, as our charter states. A lot of good creative thinking, I think, in terms of what we need to address and what will enable us to do other things once we address these boiler issues and things like that. So instead of kind of boiling the ocean, if you will, and wanting to have all these other great alternative, energy systems and things like that, we took the tack of saying, let's focus on what we need to do. Let's be very clear and specific, and let's bring forward a usable funding model. I don't have all the details around the funding model, but it looks like, and I'll let Gina and Andy kind of chime in on this, but it looks like we can do this through budgetary vehicles rather than like a bond or a lease or something big that we have to bring forward to the community. This almost looks like maintenance items where we're just doing the work.
Because they are maintenance items.
They are. So, and we think that would be more portable this year and more easy to address, and then it enables other things. Gina, I don't know if there's something you want to add?
I just wanted to add one thing. I think that really sums up the charge of this committee right now, but I don't want to lose sight of the idea that once that recommendation comes forward in December, that committee's worked well and has great ideas. I'd love for the board to consider broadening the scope of that committee, or maybe changing the makeup if need be, but to really start looking at the rest of the capital improvement plans and planning beginning, January for what's to come, as we are facing the end of a bond coming off. So FY26, we have a $600,000 bill that comes off. So what can we do now to make sure that we're planning appropriately, have the time, have the communication to the community, et cetera?
Yeah, and I think when we talked about this facility committee originally, it was definitely the charter and the focus was to be on this particular project, but with the intent that if it worked and it worked well, and it sounds like it has, that it would be a continuing committee, much like we have a rep on the budget committee, we have a policy committee. It would become a board committee, honestly, that we would always have a board member on the committee. The makeup can change and shift as years go on and as we all leave, but the idea that there's always sort of, and it doesn't have to meet monthly, it could meet quarterly or something, but to have a continuing facility committee, that's my idea, that's my vision of it, but,
Yeah.
so what's your take on that?
Our charter currently keeps the committee together until April 1st.
Okay.
So even though we're going to bring forward and I think I tried to focus the committee on bringing a recommendation, not 4 things that the board has to now shuffle through and spend a lot of time.
Right.
I felt strongly that that's the committee's work. We do that heavy lift. We bring, this is it.
Right.
So I guess between the time we bring that recommendation forward and our April 1st time, we call it time to live in the tech world, the board can decide how you want this committee to be structured and how you want it to go forward, if at all.
Okay.
So the only other thing is, and I'll just kind of hint a little bit with the board here, I want to talk to the committee more in depthly. I think there may be a need to ask for some funding for study work where we can hire subject matter experts, or at least use them maybe hourly or when we need to tap them. Because right now, it's kind of like we're working with some folks that are kind of doing it. But if we were to, and maybe that's something that we'll put in the recommendation for this board to consider, if there's some number that we can secure, so we can use those funds to hire people, and then, it's a very defined relationship and clear relationship we have with those entities. I'm bringing that up because it worked really well in Hollis, because we did the study. We had a budget of X amount of dollars that we could put towards coming together and figuring out what steps and what next steps for, if it's alternative systems and things like that. It's going to take study and a deep dive, and that's going to perhaps require some money. So without it, I'm not quite sure. I'm not saying there isn't a way forward.
Right.
I'm not sure what that would look like. So
Okay.
we'll look at this much more in-depthly
I mean, I
before
know-
we
right.
bring it here.
I know the work is right now on getting your proposal and the recommendation together for December, and I know there's a lot of work related to that, but I would love to hear more about like a potential, like longer-term vision, because I know we have a great capital improvement plan. I know the business office does a lot of work, but I feel like sometimes the board can get caught flat-footed
Yeah.
if we're not kind of having an ear in on that.
So I anticipate, post bringing the recommendation in December, I anticipate that there will be additional work that the committee will need to do, maybe if it's refining numbers for whatever, for the meeting in March, or it could be building a roadmap of what we think this committee needs to do going forward,
That would be great.
post boilers.
Perfect.
So.
All right, thank you.
Quick question, do we, on a regular basis, update the respective towns' CIP?
The town CIP?
Yeah, give them input. I know they ask for it on an annual basis.
We provide the towns that, we're on the different budget cycles, so we don't necessarily match up. We tend to get our stuff to them in August, September. We prefer, I think, more May, June, July.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because I was watching a planning board meeting in Brookline, and the statement was made that they have not received a CIP plan from the SAU in 10 years. And I wasn't at the meeting to object at the time, but
Well, it wouldn't necessarily go to
The planning
the
board.
planning board.
well, the person who was saying it is also, I think, the chairman of the CIP committee.
Okay?
Because I've seen the requests that have come in, and I know that the SAU staff does not normally blow off requests from the towns for information.
Okay.
So I will bring that information back to the
Thank
town
you.
of Brookline.
All right, thank you so much, Rob, for
Sure,
all your hard
sure.
work on the committee. We look forward to December.
It's coming. Yep.
Get to talk about boilers, everybody's favorite
Yeah.
topic. All right, budget committee, report out.
Yeah, thanks. Majority of what was done at the budget committee was captured in superintendent's presentation, but at least it was new to me, and it may be new to others who haven't actually participated in the process before, but the way they came up with the guidance was a little bit of a surprise to me. And that was that they took the, what's the cost of living?
CIP?
Yeah, exactly. The cost of living increase that we use for the SAU.
CPI, sorry.
CPI.
CPI.
Thank you.
There's the letters, numbers,
I know,
backwards,
well,
everything.
CIP was stuck in my brain.
Sorry.
And then they look at the overall budget, and they look at the items that are captured in things such as warrant articles and other contractual stuff that is not discretionary. So any salaries and stuff, which is contractual. Long story short, they came up with only 48% of the budget is discretionary as far as increasing. They applied the CPI to that, which was either 2.6 or 2.8%, and then said, okay, 48% of 2.8%, and it came out to like 1.37%. And that's how they came up with a guidance number. There was a proposal by at least one member to provide guidance with 0 increase, and therefore put the onus on the administration to tell them what's a reasonable increase and then negotiate it. And I and other members pushed back on that viewpoint because the Budget Committee is empowered to make a reasonable recommendation as to what's an appropriate increase. So I've often wondered how that guidance came about. I think it's important that we understand that there is a portion of the Budget Committee that it's basically saying, tell us what you want and prove you need it, and then we'll consider whether adding it to guidance, as opposed to saying, we own the budget, let's figure out what an appropriate budget is. So gave me a little bit different perspective on how to treat that guidance. It is intended by them to be a give and take, and they intentionally start low because they don't want to cut guidance and take money away. But there seems to be an expectation that there may be a need to increase it. That's all.
There is a need to what?
Increase it, guidance. Increase what they will accept. So for many of them, it's viewed as a floor, not as just a number.
Like a negotiation almost?
Yes.
I don't recall it being like that when I was.
Well, read the minutes from the
On
most
the committee.
from the
No,
rest-
I'm not questioning you.
No,
I'm
I'm
just
just saying,
saying,
it was surprising to me to have it stated that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is an arbitrary number. I mean, even when we've been under the budget number, they still try to find a way to, change that number, that percentage of guidance. So I understand what you're saying, that it is kind of a flux. It's not something that they came in and say, here, you have 30 million, this is it. They play around with the numbers as well. And there's been conversation about how they calculate that too, because some of them want to start from 0 and some of them want to start from actuals from last year.
Exactly.
So I think the committee's changed quite a bit over the years that Andy's been here.
And the interesting thing that was brought up by one member, who happens to have the same last name as someone on the school board, was that the CPI is backward looking.
Which one?
Which one?
The one they apply, the 2.
No, we're trying to figure out the person who has the
Are
same
they
last
two?
name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, she's too important. She's very neutral.
He's talking about himself.
I forget that member man can mean multiple things.
Yes.
Sorry, Rob.
No,
But one of the things that Tom pointed out is that CPI is backward looking. So we're starting with a number that is not a forecast. So I just wanted to make sure that
yeah, based on what was, not what is.
my colleagues here understand that it's a very difficult thing, and there's no magic to that number, and it's also not nearly as data-driven, which is one of those words we're not supposed to use anymore, as one might hope. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks so much. Okay, moving on to deliberations. Oh, goodness. Okay,
It's only 14.
so we are at, to see what action the board, let me get to my outline here. So we saw a new writing course proposal last month. Was it last month? Okay. So we'll just put it on the table and we can talk about it. I need a motion to approve the administration's request for a new writing course at the Hollis Brookline Middle School as detailed in the proposal provided at the October 18th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Cindy, seconded by Krista.
No.
By Beth, thank you. Okay, is there any discussion on this or comments? We did see this last month and we asked questions and discussed it.
I just want to confirm that this is the one that's directed to students who have been identified at some level?
Correct. Yes, correct. All those in favor? 7-0.
Now you
Okay.
can run away, Lauren.
Okay. Moving on to some policy work. And we have a lot of policies here, and some of them we had no comments on last month, so we're hoping to move through them rather quickly. The first policy is policy JLCF. So we are on our third reading of this, so we'd like to do a third reading and adopt. So I need a motion to accept the third reading and adopt policy JLCF wellness.
So moved.
Moved by Beth.
Second.
Second by Rob. I don't believe there were any changes, right, between this meeting and last meeting? Thank you. So if there's,
And which ones will this wipe out?
this doesn't wipe anything out. These were changed.
EFD.
Oh, it does wipe something out. Thank
Later
you.
we'll rescind EFD.
Okay, thank you. So, all those in favor of third and adopt of JLCF? That is 7-0-0.
Thank you.
Okay. The next one is the second reading, and we're going to waive the third of policy JJIB. So I need a motion to accept the second reading and waive the third of policy, waive the third and adopt policy JJIB, interscholastic athletics.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Krista, second
No, no, no.
Beth. Rob was the second. And so again, there were no more changes than were already made.
Principals, plural.
Oh, we pluralized principals instead of principal. So we added an S. Gina knows everything.
No, there's an underline.
I don't have it in front of me. I'm not pulling them up as I go. I'm
That's
just
fine.
looking at this. So all those in favor, any questions? Okay, all those in favor? 7-0. Motion carries. Okay. The next are the non-discrimination policies that we went through last month. These were written specifically by our attorneys, were worked on by our attorneys. So I need a motion to accept the second reading, waive the third, and adopt policy AC, non-discrimination, equal opportunity employment, and district anti-discrimination plan.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Beth, second by Rob.
And that was Kate.
That was Kate.
And that was Rob.
Oh my God.
Guy's voice. I was trying to trip you up, but I didn't think you'd go for it.
I thought it was Rob's voice.
That was a good one.
Okay. Well, I can't see right now,
How's
so
football set up?
you're all a blur, and so then now my hearing's screwing with me. Fine, okay. So are there any comments or questions on this? We didn't have any changes.
There's no changes?
No changes. All those in favor? 7-0, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, next one is to accept this, I need a motion to accept this, if you guys could speak up, that would help me. A motion to accept the second reading, waive the third, and adopt policy ACAA, harassment and sexual harassment of students.
So moved.
Moved by Beth.
Second.
Seconded by Rob. Again, there were no comments or motions, changes, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, any comments? All those in favor? 7-0-0.
Thank you.
All, that's approved. That's carries. Dawn, there you go. Okay, finally, no, not finally. I need a motion to accept the
Halfway
second
through.
reading, waive the third, and adopt ACAA-R, student discrimination, harassment, and Title IX sexual harassment complaint procedures.
So moved.
Moved by Beth.
Second.
Second by Rob. Again, no changes. Gina?
Correct.
No changes. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? 7-0-0, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, so I need a motion to accept the second reading, waive the third, and adopt policy ACAB, harassment and sexual harassment of school employees.
So moved.
Beth
Second.
and Rob. Again, no changes. Any comments? All those in...
No, I have a comment. Do we really want to avoid having this kind of opportunity?
No, we're good. Okay. All those in favor? 700.
You don't want to pick on the kids, but.
Okay. And then I need a motion to accept the second reading, waive the third, and adopt ACAB-R, employee discrimination, harassment, and Title IX sexual harassment complaint procedures.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Beth and seconded by Rob. Again, no changes. These come straight from our attorney. All those in favor? 700. Motion carries. Okay, moving forward. Those were, I'm just gonna pull up these others now. Sorry. Okay, so next one is to accept the first reading of policy EB. So we need a motion to put on the table to accept the first reading of policy EB, Workplace Safety Program and Joint Loss Prevention Committee as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Beth, seconded by Rob.
Okay, so,
And that's Gina.
Pretty much getting rid of the entire thing and rewriting it?
pretty much, yep. So, so now the policy needs to be about the Joint Loss Management Committee. So we've had the Joint Loss Management Committee, but now the requirement is that it's sort of specified in this policy. So that's what you see.
The only thing is committee and has two eyes. The header.
It's to emphasize the I.
Because there's no I in committee, there's two eyes.
Oh,
There's
no,
like
no,
lots of
there.
people in committee, so there's no, yeah.
Thank you.
Can you just give any description of what the functional impact of this new policy is relative, what?
The
what-
functional impact?
I mean, what drove them to essentially recreate it?
So the laws were updated, the changes were implemented, such as some new regulations regarding this committee's work to evaluate, let's say, student violence in the schools. And so I think that drove the necessity to identify that you do need a JLMC and you need to meet the requirements that are outlined in the labor.
Because the
Department of Labor.
existing policy had very explicit statements of what is being reviewed essentially, and it also put responsibility on the principals.
Yeah, and so the existing policy was really a safety program, and that was that we were going to do drills in schools, et cetera. So that's become EBB, and so that's in draft form, still in policy committee.
Okay,
It's
so-
referenced here, and you'll see that we still do that. We're just kind of shifting, so this becomes more just workplace safety, and the other one becomes how do we do like safety drills with students.
And EBB's in policy, it's not ready yet.
We thought we would limit it to 13 items tonight.
Yeah.
No, I didn't, because not knowing what the
Yeah.
state, I didn't know if they now had overarching documents that superseded ours, and that's why we were taking everything out of ours.
Well, no, we're gonna be moving it.
Fun.
Yeah.
Any other comments? This was for first read, so all in favor? 700, great. So the next policy is EHAB. I need a motion to accept the first reading of policy EHAB, data governance and security, as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Rob. Okay, Gina, this
Okay.
is you again. I feel like we never see this policy. My goodness, I feel like we see it all the time.
So this was a long one that that there were some changes to the law, and there was a policy update a year ago, but there was so much other work going on that it sort of stayed in draft form, and then another policy update came out, and so we thought we would give them all at once, 2-for-1 bonus. But, so we've added, as required, a definition of cybersecurity incident. We've also updated some of our, the titles of people that we have within the SAU. You're going to see our entire data governance plan come before you again prior to June, probably in the May meeting, with some updates there as well, just as a side note. Like I said, just some updates to that the plan also deals with breach of information or a cybersecurity incident as defined above. It includes also a provision that students participating in career exploration or CTE programs can utilize certain programs such as LinkedIn. So, we had there's just an evolution of this over time. So there was you can't access anything, can't share any PII, but then a downfall would be if a student's really trying to develop a good solid resume and network, and potentially network per a requirement in like a business class, let's say in a CTE program, they actually weren't allowed to. So that creates an opening and opportunity for that. Just some additional updates around what the plan includes. Let's see.
And the student needs parental consent to do
The
that.
parents still need to approve
Do they
it,
need
but
it?
it allows a parent to approve it and allow access. What was that?
Do they need to get approval if they are not minors?
No.
Is it necessary to state that? Because right now it says all students would have to get permission.
We can look at that.
Yeah, maybe we change that to minor students or students under 18.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta be careful where you put it, because,
Yeah, we'll look at that.
yeah.
It's a good point.
Is there a definition of PII in here? I didn't,
Up top,
is it?
underneath confidential data information, personally identifiable information, i.e. PII.
But it doesn't say what is in that?
Personally.
It's defined in the data governance plan.
Is it? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I went through one of these today for a government contractor, and I was surprised what's not in it.
Right.
And so it just, also what's gonna, if there's a breach, these are things that are required that we do.
Great.
That's it.
Any other questions on that? Don't look at my face. Looking at Tom. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. All those in favor for first read? 7-0.
Does that have a date when it needs to be adopted by, Gina?
No.
Okay. Next is ACN. We need a motion. I need a motion to accept the first reading of policy ACN, nursing mothers. Beth. Second?
Sure.
Rob? No.
Oh,
Kate.
I'm sorry, second.
Kate,
I
never
got-
mind.
I'm-
Kate
I'm
said
off my-
first. Kate said first. Your
Okay.
opinion. Good.
Fair enough.
Okay, we've got ACN,
Snoozing.
nursing mothers, and Gina, are you speaking to this one too?
Yeah.
You got them all today.
I do. So the reason that thing is underlined is because it's a brand-new policy for us. It is required by law. There was a change, or there's a, a new RSA. There is the Pump for Nursing Mothers Act and Pregnant Worker Fairness Act. And so this just puts in policy what we are required to do. It's not really a change in practice. It does provide some parameters, but we've always worked with our employees.
Are there any either other policies or language that create restrictions as to where it's permissible?
Where it's permissible, not so much, but where it's not permissible. And so some regulations around, like years ago, an employee might have been told to just go to their car. That's
Yeah.
not allowed.
No, but I mean, is there anything that prevents it from
someone
from being done in a relatively public environment?
Yes, the law does.
Is that
It's very
referenced here?
specific. What's that?
Is that referenced here?
The law is referenced, yes, but I'm trying to figure out,
So it's probably that RSA 275? Colon 78, policies relating to nursing mothers.
let's see.
Well, this is nursing mothers.
It's maybe temporary, shall be shielded from view and free from intrusion by other persons, including, without limitation, other staff or students. So then,
But it says you have to create that capability.
I think Tom's wondering if there's anything that prevents a staff member from nursing wherever they want.
Like like in a classroom.
I see.
Like in a classroom, or in a hallway, or in the lunchroom.
It's a good question.
I don't think this
That's why it's
policy
first
does
reading.
that.
policy
No,
does
this
not.
doesn't, this protects,
This is about accommodating nursing mothers.
Right.
The question you're asking, I don't think is addressed in this policy. I don't know where that's addressed.
We can definitely take that back and talk about, but that's a really careful line. And there's also nowadays technology, there are pumps that you wouldn't even know women are wearing, and they could be walking around with you not even knowing.
Yeah.
So I think we should just be careful about that. We could definitely talk about that, because that's not at all
Yeah, we can
addressed
talk
here.
about whether or not we can even address that.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
wondering
sure.
if it's captured elsewhere in terms of
I highly doubt it.
a public display independent of nursing.
I don't know, but that's not what this is about.
I understand that.
I'm not arguing with you. I think it's a good question. I just don't. You asked it very tactfully, and I did not. But, that's who I am. All right. All those, any other questions on this one?
Is this one requiring an expedite where it's?
No. All those in favor? 7-0-0. Okay, and then we have to rescind a couple because of the logistics of the others, right? So I need a motion to rescind policy GBAA, sexual harassment and sexual violence.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Beth, second by Rob. Any questions? All those in favor? 7-0-0. I need a motion to rescind policy JBAA, sexual harassment students.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Beth, second by Rob. All those in favor? 7-0, motion carries. I need a motion to rescind policy EFD wellness.
So moved.
Moved
Sorry.
by Beth, and I
Oh,
need a second.
second. I thought we were done.
No, we had one more. Okay.
Yeah.
All those in favor? 7-0-0.
I don't have 14.
Okay, so we have completed the policy section. And now I need a report out from the process observer. Did I miss some? Did I miss one? Did I get them all?
No, he doesn't have.
No,
one.
I only had 13 items. We did a 14th. That's why I was slow on my,
Oh, you know what? You might have to, yeah, okay.
I
so-
downloaded it today and it only had 13.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Did we do
because,
an agenda adjustment?
no, we
I
added,
downloaded it. Here's what I downloaded this.
Oh, yeah, I don't have it.
okay,
I was like,
sorry.
no, it's one of those things.
Okay, I need a report out from the process observer, and it's supposed to
Well.
happen at 8:30.
Yeah, well, we entered into our principal report section, Section C, early and kept good pace. Additional time, however, was needed as we got into some data-heavy materials, which caused us to get somewhat bogged down and entered the budget review late. But not too bad. We got there about 7:28. And then Section E, we started approximately 25 minutes late, however, around 8:14, but we rallied the pace really, really well. Like, it was astonishing and finished on time. Actually, I'm going to give you the minute grace, 8:31, but we finished on time.
Excellent,
So,
thank you so much.
whew,
Thanks a lot.
how do
Okay.
you
Do
do
we
it?
have a non-public?
I talk fast. I'm from New Jersey, Rob, so
That's
are
right.
you. You know? All right, we have a non-public and we have a non-meeting, but we'll do the non-public first. So I need a motion that the board by roll call go into non-public pursuant to RSA, is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay, RSA 91-A:32, Part A, dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee. I'll start with you, Beth.
Aye.
Krista, aye. Cindy, aye.
Holly, aye.
Kate, aye.
Second, no, Rob, aye.
Tom, aye.
Okay, so the board is now entering into non-public at 8:33.
Who made the motion?
She didn't take a motion, that was.
So Holly made the motion.
Yeah,
Who made the motion?
Rob seconded, I
I
heard
made
it.
the